Some Democratic voters appear disillusioned with the Democratic Party, with one even calling it spineless and another calling it paralyzed. Those were some responses the New York Times drew from their latest focus group, consisting of 13 Democrats and Democratic-leaning voters. Their criticisms of the party, they don't stop there.
Now, the group seemed to agree that they feel the Democratic Party in Congress has essentially either given up or sold out. When asked to elaborate, one member of the group said, quote, "It seems to me like they're scared to speak up." Another said the Democrats are really good at speaking when they want to act like they care. But at the end of the day, for example, when they gave in to giving ICE money, they're suckers. They get suckered and really easily by the Republicans.
Many of the participants called on the Democrats to fight more, and as far as what that might look like, many pointed to the government shutdown last year. One member said they can't get a clear, cohesive message out there, and they don't all stand together on that message, so no one knows, hey, we're fighting for you or for this. They just think, hey, you're just locking the whole government up because you're just being stubborn. Another agreed they did just go belly up on the government shutdown. They had some real bargaining power there, and they just pushed the chips in and said, no, it's all right. I don't want to play this game anymore. It's like, no, if the Republicans are going to play this game, you got to play the game. We can't just sit around and not play. Several members of the group cited Zoran Mamdani, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, and Jasmine Crockett as examples of that fight they're looking for, and every single one of them said they would prefer a progressive Democratic candidate over a more moderate one.
The group also expressed fear regarding the Trump administration's immigration enforcement crackdown and a concern that the recent Democratic election victories may indicate Republicans will try to influence the 2026 and 2028 elections in their favor. But their criticisms of their own party seem to be the part that resonated with liberal voices online. Hasan Piker, writing on X, "This tracks 100% with what I've seen on the streets, from No Kings protest to the resistance against ICE. People are very mad at their party. Dems on here are oblivious to the anger. They're speaking into an echo chamber of consultants who tell them whatever they want to hear." And former DNC Vice Chair David Hogg, taking it a step further in a post of his own, "Our problem is far greater than a message problem. It's a courage problem. It's a messenger problem. There's no way forward without directly addressing who we are and challenging ourselves to be better." I think this is a bunch of pent-up anger from
Fight.
the sidelining of
Fight.
the 2016 sidelining of Bernie Sanders. And
Oh, sure.
pushing forward. This is for years to come of like Hillary Clinton being the candidate, a lot of people wanting Bernie Sanders. And as a result of that, Trump won the election. And that's why we even have a Trump presidency now twice. And I think that was a result of the frustration and the lack of interest because they feel overlooked by a party that continues to rely on what it did in the past, that doesn't resonate with what people would like to see in the future. I think when you look at Chuck Schumer as leader of the party that always talks about negotiating across the aisle, I think why Gavin Newsom, somebody like him, is resonating more with people and amongst people who are even more liberal than Gavin Newsom's policies actually are, is because he's saying things back to Trump. He's fighting fire with fire. That's why Jasmine Crockett also was on that list. She's saying things. And there's other people like AOC that are actually have the inline policies of Bernie Sanders, that is populism and things that people want to see happen within the party. So I think combining of the two ideas is like not sitting back and being bulldozed by what you might agree with or not agree with in the way Trump goes about things and his administration just goes about ask questions later, not being somebody in the party that's going to be bulldozed, but also having some strategy that also is inclusive, like Mamdani did, talking about the economy in a different way because what we've done hasn't been working, is probably what people want to see. But right now it just looks like everybody that's in Congress really doesn't mind getting steamrolled. I mean, even with the partial shutdown, it's like, well, we'll end up funding it. Or even with the big, beautiful bill passing, there's not much they could have done, but it's like, well, that's already funded ICE anyway. Or even with health care, we held up Congress for months. Oh, well, everybody's still paying more this year. It's like, well, what are you doing? What are you willing to risk it all for? Right? If healthcare was the biggest thing of the last decade, arguably, for Democrats, why did you guys end the shutdown then? It should have been like, it's cave on this or nothing. And I know a lot of people would have been affected. I didn't agree with the government shutting down. I think that's a structural problem within Congress, the fact that it has to shut down without getting things done. But I think nobody knows what Democrats are willing to put it all on the table for, stand on firmly. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats are the minority party. They don't have much actual power. There's very little they can do. So I'm always, I roll my eyes slightly at these. We want them to fight. They should fight more. But in what way can they actually, or should they actually fight? Now, the healthcare battle, or the government funding battle, that was one thing where they did have some power to fight, and so their fight took the form of, um, people losing SNAP benefits and government shutting down and economic destruction. So is that what you want when you say fight? Maybe that's what Democratic primary voters, just going back to what I said on my radar, are extremists who might actually want that. I don't know that that's makes the party popular with the kinds of independents it needs to win over. It needs to show that it's the responsible party, the Democrats, that can be trusted with the majority, that Republicans are wild, and look at Trump, he just careens from one disastrous policy to the other. Trust us with government again, even though we did a terrible job of it with Joe Biden. Trust us with governance. But that fight mentality, I think, clashes with the need to be trusted.
I think that we should try, as a country, somebody that echoes the mindset of a Mamdani, who mirrored his he mirrored his playbook from Bernie Sanders. And so that whole idea that, I know you disagree with it, and I'm also not fully on board with a lot of the policies, but we haven't tried it yet. Like the tax the wealthy, simple, reliable messaging.
They haven't tried taxing the wealthy. They're trying it in California right now.
No, I'm saying, like, this is what Mamdani is running on, saying a little bit is not going to change for millionaires, $20,000. I know that you really feel a way about that.
Pitch. I'm only going to steal.
But Bernie Sanders had no problem. It's not stealing. You're for the greater good of this country. You're giving your fair share, right? While paying your percentage of taxes that most people pay. So the point is, these are progressive agendas that we haven't tried in a presidency yet. And so say it works. This is what I tell you about Mamdani. I don't know that it's going to work. Say that it works in New York, well, then everybody can just be quiet. We tried it. If it goes disastrously, well, guess what? New York has had disastrous leaders in the past. Then we'll move on. But the point is, let's try it, see how it goes. And if it goes well, we have something to look to and reflect on. And luckily, Mamdani will have been in his position long enough that we can have a sort of sample to see how that resonates with people there, and maybe in a larger message. So Democrats should really be looking closely at that and not shun that. We saw a lot of party leaders in Congress act like Mamdani didn't exist or want to push him to the wayside. We saw AOC support him immediately. A lot of people didn't throw their support until it was the last fourth quarter, and they realized he was going to win with or without his support. But I think, the fact that people were so upset that Bernie Sanders got skipped over and thought he had a real chance in 2016, then why not see, I don't know if it's AOC, but why not see what the next leader that embodies that type of philosophy leads like? We gave Trump a chance. He had no diplomatic, foreign, or any type of experience relating to government, and we gave him a chance. So why not give somebody a chance that has a different type of policy? Because certainly what I know is that Trump's economic policy is not working well.
Well, I would say that socialism has gotten many chances on a global, historical scale.
We don't compare ourselves to other countries. We compare ourselves to America.
Worked out in crippling poverty and food shortages, and on top of that, some political repression every single time. But you know what? Maybe this time will be different.
This is the same conversation as yesterday, where we told you that on CNN they were saying because Tesla and Figaro had a perspective that they're comparing worst of times to China's worst of times. I don't agree with that comparison, that every time you look at another country and compare it to ours, that's how you compare apples and oranges. It's two different countries.
Well, the thing is that socialism is a pretty bad economic system, and that is universal across countries' histories, because it's economically illiterate, and having the government centralize control of the economy, try to set the prices, try to say who should make what, try to confiscate the wealth from the most productive members of society in order to make it more fair or more equal, that has a track record of making everyone poorer every single time.
Well, you know what? Everyone's poorer right now than they were, according to studies a couple of years ago. So I guess we can only go up from here.
Not with socialism. We can go much farther down.
Well, left-wing commentators Mehdi Hasan and Jennifer Welch had some harsh words for CNN panelist Scott Jennings. We're going to be right back with that.